Rick Reiff, and welcome to Inside OC. Huntington Beach gets federal stimulus dollars to clean up a wildlife habitat. Good for the coastline, but is it good for the economy? We'll debate that and more on Consider This. But first, I'm joined by Anaheim's mayor and the new chairman of the California High-Speed Rail Authority, Curt Pringle. Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Nice to be here, Rick.
I'm sure it is. So, tough times for cities. How's it going in Anaheim?
Well, these are tough economic times for everybody. I mean, we're not, cities are no different than family checkbooks, or we're a lot different than the state because we've taken action early on. And those of us in government who did take action along the way to cut back and trim our expenses are going to make it through this tough economic situation.
Okay, now I did notice Anaheim, basically what you're doing now at this point is that you're dipping into some reserves to try to get through. Irvine's doing the same thing, so people aren't going to see cuts. Nobody's losing their jobs, right? So are the cities really having to tighten their belts like average folks are?
Well, of course we are. And in fact, we just happened to start our cuts a year ago. We did not just wait until the crisis was upon us. We passed our budget last year, and actually within the first month, our city manager asked for every department to reduce by 2%. We had reductions last January, and we had further reductions in this budget.
Now, are those job reductions?
Yes, they are. And through any government or business entity, you have attrition. People are retiring and they're leaving. We're just not filling those positions, and we really haven't for the last year. And in our city, that means there's a lot of vacant spots that we haven't filled, thus savings. Okay. And those are real cuts, and we'll live with those real cuts.
Okay. Well, Curt, you're a former Assembly Speaker so long ago, perhaps it's, some people have forgotten. But
even at my age, I have a good enough memory to remember.
Right, and happy 50th, by the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I ask you, as one who has been there, what the heck is wrong with the state?
Well,
in 25 words or
yeah,
less.
exactly. Is this a half-hour show or a 3-day show? But in fact, the state did not respond as local governments have, as business have, when the economy started to turn. We are so reliant upon personal income tax as a revenue source to this state, and it's very volatile during tough economic times. So one, the cuts didn't occur when the economy slowed, and two, now the revenues are dropping dramatically because we're in a tough economic time. So we're in a death spiral, I think, unless some really significant things can happen. And I don't think you can solely tax your way out of it or cut your way out of it.
That's the problem. The question is, why doesn't the legislature and the governor address this and deal with it? I think that's what people are wondering. Everybody understands it happened because of this or that, but why don't they do something about it?
Well, a responsible legislature should have, and they didn't, and they got away with it, and they kicked the can down the road for 2 or 3 budget cycles, and now it's something that cannot be solved in one budget cycle.
Are there just too many special interests that run the state?
Probably special interests and locked-in expenditure requirements within the Constitution. When voters pass initiatives, some with very good intentions.
Right. So how do you change it? How do you change? Do we have a constitutional convention?
Oh, that's awfully scary for
All right,
me to
so how do we
contemplate.
change it if we're locked in?
Well, I think there are some of the constitutional elements within the budget that need to be removed, and I sit on the Commission on the 21st Century Economy, which we're looking at how tax structure in California should be changed to affect future revenues for the 21st century of the state. So
a lot of good you've done so far.
Well, we haven't issued our report, so
all right.
You complain about that when we do.
Okay, we'll do. Now, let's talk about something that I know that you want to talk about, which is trains. Okay? Anaheim and the OCTA are about to launch a massive transit project. It's called ARTIC, the Anaheim Regional Transportation Intermodal Center. I don't think Pringle came up with that name. I hope not. Anyway, here's David Nazar.
Who hasn't been stuck in this mess before? OC freeways and streets clogged with traffic, or packed lines at local airports as folks wait for a flight. It's just not that easy to get around. That's why the city of Anaheim and OCTA have joined forces to build ARTIC, a multi-year, multi-phase project of both new and expanded transportation services. The new facility will be built on this 16-acre parcel of land next to the Santa Ana River, between the Honda Center and Angel Stadium.
That accommodates high-speed rail, existing Amtrak and Metrolink service, as well as a host of bus, shuttle, and taxi services as well. It'll be a grand facility, roughly 66,000 square feet, accommodating all of those passenger services.
And that's just the start of phase 1 of the project.
While this parcel of land is empty now, officials say when all is said and done, ARTIC will be the transportation hub of the region. connecting Orange County to all parts of Southern California, parts of Northern California, and potentially out to Las Vegas.
Actually, the California high-speed rail segment between Anaheim and LA Union Station, I believe, will be the first high-speed rail segment built in the country and really be able to connect Anaheim to LA, but then continue on all the way to the Valley and San Francisco.
Some question the decision to send federal stimulus money to Orange County for a potential high-speed rail to Vegas. However, Mayor Pringle says it was a good decision and the money is needed.
High-speed rail is something people need to look at. Yes, it's a public investment. Yes, it'll cost a lot of money. Yes, it'll be difficult to make up money from it, but those are the same challenges in building an interstate highway system or other means of transportation. You need to take that first step.
And that's what the city is doing as it partners with the Orange County Transportation Authority.
The project's funded with a blend of local, state, and federal funds. That includes a portion of Measure M sales tax or your local sales tax. Phase 1 is fully funded at $178 million. These funds are all designated for transit use.
Transit use that officials say will eventually be second to none when all phases of the project are completed. In Anaheim, David Nazar reporting.
Curt, that's exciting looking stuff, the computer model of the train zipping by and everything. When will this, is this really something that's going to happen?
Sure. There's plenty of skeptics, and there always have been, and particularly when you plan for something of this magnitude, it takes a long time. The city started planning the Arctic, which is this very complete transit center, over 15 years ago. And now at this moment in time, it's ready to move forward. So all of what will be seeing, and people will see construction begin in 2011 of that facility.
Right. So 2011, there will actually be a groundbreaking on that facility.
There will be. And that will be the first phase of this transit center that will be there with the expanded Metrolink and all the other things.
Okay, so Metrolink is already existing. It will go there, so we know there will be Metrolink. Now,
and all the bus service, bus rapid transit service, and other
Now, the exciting stuff, this train, there's one going to L.A., and then, as you say, eventually to San Francisco. I mean, how much is that going to cost, and what's the timetable for that?
Well, I think people blend those two, and they really are two distinct projects. One is the California high-speed rail, which really runs north to south, south to north. It connects Anaheim all the way up through L.A. to San Francisco. That's a state agency. I am the chairman of that now. The voters passed $9 billion in bonds, and we're competing for the $8 billion in stimulus money that the president had set aside for high-speed rail across the country. That's one project.
So that adds up to $17 billion.
Well, we won't get all of the federal money in this swoop, but the entire project is scheduled right now to be about $40 billion to build from Anaheim to San Francisco. But the first segment from Anaheim to L.A. could start as early as 2012. All the environmental work will be done by mid-2011.
Okay.
The one going from Anaheim to Vegas, that's more controversial, mainly because
it's been called the high roller train, the Sin train.
And that's all wonderful, and I will be glad to support any name anybody wants to put on it for a naming right. But in fact, that is not a state agency. It is a state agency out of Nevada working with folks in California, something I like, but that may take a little longer to develop. So keep those two distinct, because the California high-speed rail, the one that runs north-south, is going to happen, and it's going to happen in the very near future.
Okay. And the other one, maybe it won't happen?
It is all a matter of building the funding support and building the public support to make it happen.
We should mention Tom Umberg, former assemblyman from Orange County, is the vice chair of this commission. So Orange County's got it covered. You got it on the right, he's got it on the left, and Orange County's going to get everything it wants.
We're going to move forward to create a statewide system, and I think that's our universal
Finally, are
goal.
you ready here on the show to say what you will do when you cease being mayor in 2010?
Yes. I'm planning on enjoying my time with my wife and family and my
But you could
business.
still be the chairman of this commission, right?
I still could be if I get reappointed. I have to be reappointed to that.
Very good. Thank you. And Probolsky wanted me to stipulate that Anaheim's a sponsor of the show, as if though that isn't obvious. But anyway, I think that makes the tough questioning you just underwent all the more impressive.
Was that tough questioning?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Continued good luck. The Obama administration is sending more than $3 million to Huntington Beach for a coastal restoration project. It's all part of the president's stimulus plan that provides about $170 million to improve the nation's wetlands and wildlife. David Nazar has the story.
This 40-acre Magnolia Marsh on Pacific Coast Highway in Huntington Beach is about to be restored to a natural wildlife habitat. It's the only project of its kind in Orange County and one of only 50 nationwide eligible for federal restoration funding out of more than 800 applicants. The Magnolia Marsh met the three main criteria. The project can restore vital coastal habitat, create jobs, and get started right away.
This is an area that was significantly degraded. It was highly polluted, there's some nasty chemicals, and part of the restoration effort is restoring that to the natural functioning of that system.
A system that includes all sorts of species that experts say are vital to the environment.
Marsh plants that form the habitat. There are crabs, there are worms, there are a lot of small crustaceans, shrimp-like creatures.
Dr. Luchenko says the Huntington Beach Magnolia Marsh is all part of an ecosystem that helps keep our planet healthy.
Those plants and animals and microbes all interact with one another to provide critically important stabilization. They detoxify pollutants that are running off the land. They provide critical habitat for juvenile species that might spend part of their time in the ocean, for migratory birds.
While some critics argue it's a mistake to send federal money for coastal restoration projects such as this one, especially during this recession when every dollar is needed, NOAA officials and Huntington Beach leaders say the economic and ecological benefits are crucial.
It's easy to say that in any time, oh my gosh, we have to save every penny, but look at it as more of an investment than an expense. Well, we're estimating about 130 jobs. And in this economy, obviously, every job is very important. About $3.4 million to do this particular job. So from the actual engineers that design it to the folks that do the actual restoration on site.
Mayor Bohr says the restoration project is also important because it will bring much-needed tourism dollars to his city.
So to continue the restoration and create the paths and the natural habitat, a great way to start your day, right? Walk up and down both sides of the Pacific Coast Highway on each side of the hotels and before you go to the beach or all those other things you might do. So anything we can do to add another reason to come to Huntington Beach versus other places is fantastic.
From road to rodent, highway to habitat, project officials say it's a win-win situation.
It puts people to work restoring habitat that in the end will benefit not just this wetland, but the people of this area.
In Huntington Beach, David Nazar reporting.
And across the country, these projects include restoration of damaged wetlands, shellfish beds, coral reefs, and reopening of fish passages. It's estimated that the 50 projects nationwide will create about 5,000 direct and indirect jobs. So that's direct and indirect, Debbie. Now, isn't this really more about ecology than economy?
Well, last time I checked, fisheries were an important industry, but I don't know why it's okay to subsidize the destruction of our natural resources, but it's not okay to subsidize their return to health. 2 billion people rely on fish for their meat, and we need more fisheries to produce those fish.
Now, this project in Huntington Beach isn't really going to help the fish market, is it? I mean, is it?
Every wetland helps fisheries.
Okay, and I was remiss, of course, I should introduce our guests. Joining me are Will Swaim, journalist, Debbie Cook, who you just heard, Democrat and former Huntington Beach mayor, and Republican pollster Adam Probolsky. Okay, so Debbie, back to you. But does this really? I mean, talking about what 100 jobs here in Huntington Beach on a $3.5 million project. I think a lot of people are wondering: is the stimulus really stimulating, or is it just fulfilling the wish list of public officials?
Well, you can't separate financial assets from natural assets, and those who do it at their own peril. Our natural environment is so degraded now, and if you don't start putting some attention on that, then we really are doomed.
So, Adam, what about that? We need jobs, so why not do some good stuff like fixing up the coastline?
Well, or we could build roads, things that actually make a difference in people's lives on a day-to-day basis. Especially a project like this, I'm all for crustaceans. But these marshlands...
Because they're tasty.
That's it.
Yeah.
Marshlands actually produce more poorer quality ocean water than they improve. You've got a breeding ground for birds whose droppings actually pollute our oceans.
We have just discovered the source of your support for Ronald Reagan. I'm stunned. Of course, bird droppings do end up in the ocean, but frankly, I have found far worse things in the waters off Huntington Beach. I stopped surfing there because of some of those things. But the fact is that all the stuff, if you're really familiar with the watershed of the Santa Ana River, there's disgusting stuff that comes down in there. If we don't have the marsh, it goes down there like a concrete, I was going to say poop chute. I will say that. And it goes right into the water. This has an immediate impact, I would argue, on the tourist economy, the tourism economy in Huntington Beach. I would think that it's more than just the 65 or 100 or 150 jobs I've heard about for this project. It really is about the long-term impact on the environment and therefore tourism and the livability of Huntington Beach. Makes sense to me.
Any last thought on this?
And John Moorlach likes it. John Moorlach, who you guys know, is a conservative, right? I mean, he's chairman of the board of county supervisors. John Moorlach likes this project, and not only, I would imagine, because it's in his district.
It proves Rick's point that public officials want money coming from the feds to their district.
Clearly, Adam doesn't need an environment. We can just send him into outer space.
Well, he came in a space.
Yes.
How about that, Adam? Don't we need an environment?
I'm
just took a shot at your environmental bona fides.
I put my water bottles in the recycling bin, and I don't litter.
You shouldn't use a recycling. You shouldn't even use a bottle.
Oh.
Shame on you.
Tap water.
I'm sorry.
Tap water.
Straw in the lake? Is that what we're supposed to do?
Okay. So don't drink bottled water.
Exactly.
Debbie.
Do not drink bottled water.
If you're really pure, you drink your own urine.
Debbie will invoke the name of John Moorlach. I would like, there's been this rumor going around that you are planning to run against John Moorlach for county supervisor.
I love the rumors in Orange County because they don't go anywhere. And absolutely no, I have no intention of
Is
running.
that because you like the job he's doing, or he's unbeatable?
My passion are not in the things that the county does. My passion, they really don't even deal in those areas.
So we could replay this now if you change your mind, but you're saying no, that you are not seeking to run against Moorlach.
Do I look that stupid?
Well, you ran against, who was it that you did? You ran against Rohrabacher.
Yeah,
you ran against Rohrabacher. Some people thought that was stupid.
They're whatever.
Okay. All right. Gun sales. Let's switch, let's fire on something else here. Well, gun sales are soaring. They're up about, I think, 30% nationwide, only 10% or so in California. But some people say it's bad economy. I guess people want to shoot people when the economy's bad. But they're also suggesting Obama's a feared crackdown on assault weapons or other things are getting people to buy now rather than not buy later.
We live in an economy that used to be based on producing things like really, material objects. Now I think we produce primarily fear. And if you watch Fox News, as many people do, you would bet that the economy and Obama's presidency in themselves are going to produce.
You're blaming Fox News.
Of course, why not? This is a show in which we specialize in producing fear for the national economy. Here we produce 30-second opinion. So I'm just going to play the game and say that sure, if you watch enough, and it's not just Fox. Seriously, it's much of television and broadcast media. It's about fear. It's about anxiety, and this is what American politicians work on, and it has a direct impact on the budget, which we'll come to later, I expect. But really, when you produce that kind of fear in the economy, that your neighbors are nuts, that people are walking around with guns, that criminals are being released onto the streets, when you do that as a matter of political policy to get elected, campaign policy or campaign tactics, and you do it as a matter of media policy, then of course people are going to go out and buy guns.
So you're kind of saying people cling to their guns and their religion.
I would argue that Obama was right about that. That is precisely what happens. And if you doubt that, take a look at the Middle East, where
Americans are in a much greater numbers utilizing and their First Amendment rights through blogging, through Twitter, through Facebook, and all their other ways of communicating. So why is it so odd to us that Americans are also exercising their Second Amendment rights to buy guns and have them and use them? I think it's people in America are just using their rights in a greater way.
Use them. What do you mean they're going to use their guns?
I mean, buy them. Their right is to bear arms, is to have arms, is to carry them. And so I think we should have every expectation that Americans would own and carry them.
Economies have always,
Bingo.
people have always bought more guns during down down economies, they're afraid, and so they think that will insulate them.
It's totally human. And, to answer your question about guns and religion, yes, that is what happens to human beings when they are stressed. They do revert to even more primitive forms of religion. If you doubt that, look at
your
Iran.
opinion. Do you think part of it, all right, the fear when times are bad, people do buy more guns, is part of it prompted by the fact we have a president who many people think is going to clamp down on guns, and that's why people are getting them while they can?
I haven't heard him clamping
down on guns. That's why you got your gun.
Yeah, my squirt gun, yeah.
Show him your gun.
Okay.
No, but he has one, but no longer a permit to carry one.
Okay, Will brought up the state budget. So, Debbie, I'll let you take a shot at this, too. I'd like to get from all of you, in some general terms, if you were Czarina of the state of California, what would you do to address this budget mess?
Well, I don't think you can fix this place we're in, and it's not just California, it's the world. I don't think you can fix this. We've bought into this debt-based...
Well, that's why I said address. What would you do to address it?
Well, I mean, there are lots of things that have to be done. I mentioned to Will earlier that one of the things I would do is get rid of redevelopment law in California. To bring more money, more of those dollars back to the state, because those really, the redevelopment law allows the shifting of property tax to the local government as opposed to state government. So I would eliminate.
So the decentralization of tax dollars is bad. The idea that you're suggesting that Sacramento ought to spend our tax dollars better than local jurisdictions.
So when you say redevelopment dollars, you mean money that developers pay?
No. Redevelopment with the capital R. The redevelopment law that was enacted back in the I think late 70s or early 80s. I would eliminate,
which gives local government more control over the resources that are generated in their communities. That's what it effectively does.
No, it diverts property taxes that the state would otherwise get.
We can see what a mess this is, because the very first thing you threw out, Adam objected to. But all right, Adam, you're czar for whatever it takes.
You call me Czar Probolsky?
Czar Probolsky.
All right, good.
Czar, that has a nice ring to it. Czar Probolsky, what would you do to solve or at least to address this mess that we are in?
If you roll back expenditures in the state back to 2005 levels, we would not have a budget crisis today at all. So you simply need to cut significantly across the board in every category, starting right now. And then, as Mayor Pringle pointed out, there are some structural things in our budget, some constitutionally mandated fundings that have to happen that don't allow us to cut enough to get to where we need to be. And you've got to fix it by cutting, for shame, education. You've actually got to take a 20-kid classroom size reduction and put 22 or 25 kids in that classroom.
All righty. Will, what would you do?
I don't know how you do this legally, but the fact is we've got 356,000 public employees with a pension program that is absolutely unsustainable, $200 billion with a B in unfunded liabilities for that pension program. It's unsustainable. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing in terms of the morality of who gets those pensions. I'm simply saying that the math doesn't work and you can't afford it. So you've got this Rubik's Cube of major public employees unions. And I would point especially to the corrections union, where we have created a system of really producing value for the corrections union by increasing the number of crimes for which people can be jailed.
Does anybody disagree with what Will just said about somehow addressing
no
this problem
and no?
Of the
They're good.
public employees?
Let's go.
All good. You get an A, Will.
Thank you, buddy.
You can watch this show and past shows by going to koce.org and clicking on Inside OC. My guests have been Curt Pringle, Will Swaim, Debbie Cook, and Adam Probolsky. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again Inside OC.
Inside OC is brought to you by the following. Lennar.com. Today's new homes. Everything you want. Everything you need. That's the logic of Lennar. Lennar.com.
Support comes from City National Bank, providing complete financial solutions to entrepreneurs, their businesses, and their families on the way up in Orange County for more than 30 years. City National Bank believes in the power of the entrepreneur. On the web at cnb.com.
The City of Anaheim. Founded in 1857, Anaheim is Orange County's original city and California's 10th largest city. Information on living, working, or visiting Anaheim is available at www.anaheim.net.
The law firm Stradling, Yaka, Carlson & Routh, a full-service corporate law firm in Southern California, celebrating 30 years, serving businesses and the communities of Orange County with valuable legal advice.
As a professional driver, focus is the key. The same is true if you're a teenager learning to drive. Turn off your cell phone. Keep the talking to a minimum. Oh, and don't drive as fast as me. Your car doesn't have a parachute. The Auto Club, we're always with you.